Hello and welcome. I'm Tim, and this is SV Paquita. As you might know, for the last 3 years or so, I've been telling everyone how great island packets are. So why on earth would I ever try to talk somebody out of buying an island packet? Well, I did. I talked this guy out of it. I'm not walking back any of my previous praises for Island Packet, and it's hard to argue against having 14 stays holding up a conservative rig. And I'm certainly not upset with her Yanmar engine and tankage giving her upwards of 1,000 miles of motoring range. Nor would I say having 250 gallons of water under her Salon sole would be a problem. From her full keel to her skeg protected running gear, island packets are simply perfect. Well, they're perfect for me. Maybe not perfect for everyone. Let me explain. Mark is a patron of mine, and with all of my patrons, they're more than welcome to sail with us when our schedules align and the time is right. He joined me and another friend on a trip from Rhode Island down to Norfolk a while back to get some offshore sailing experience. Although we had less than an ideal sailing conditions, we ended up motoring a lot from a lack of wind. We did have a bunch of time to talk and get to know one another. He and his wife, Crystal, both lawyers, were thinking of getting a sailboat, and Island Packet seemed to be on the top of their list. They took a few sailing courses, planned to buy a boat, and eventually set out to sail the islands and who knows where in a few years. But let's hear Mark tell it in his words.
Sure. For a long time, we've wanted an island packet to cruise, to become liveaboard cruisers and cruise the world. So for several years, I've been looking at them, and I had my first opportunity to sail on one with you. Everything I've researched said that the island packet's the perfect cruiser. Not too fast, but very sturdy, able to weather able to sail through fairly bad weather. Just a very solid boat. So yeah, for a long time, it still is kind of a dream to own an island packet, maybe in the far future. So yeah, we sailed and we talked a lot about your island packet, and you recommended that I first get something else first. We were talking about the costs of an island packet. I didn't want a very old one, so I wanted something not a few years old, and that would have been a lot of money, and that would have been my first boat.
After owning Paquita for a few years, I've had some thoughts, not necessarily regrets, but more of a change in perspective. You see, it all started when sailing in the Bahamas with my friend Gabe. Before this, I found myself viewing production boats as a lesser, cheaper, and inferior cruising boats when stacked up to an island packet. But as we cruised on Paquita, Gabe and his Jeanneau 42 was right there with us. We had our drinks at sunset in Paquita's small offshore cockpit, while other nights we had ample space enjoying dinner with many people in Gabe's luxuriously spacious cockpit. We avoided bad weather and had a truly amazing time. Then it dawned on me. I could be retired right then and still be able to sail the exact same cruising grounds in living basically the same, if not better, conditions than we had on Paquita. True, an island packet would be a much better choice to cross oceans and to handle bad weather much better than a production boat. But for most people, bad weather and crossing oceans isn't in their plans. I also started thinking that I would have been a much better sailor had I started out on a smaller boat. This is not just about the length of the waterline, but the actual displacement of the boat. Paquita's 30,000 pounds with nothing in her. Everything has to be bigger, and unfortunately the forces that move her have to be bigger as well. Learning how to sail my asymmetrical would have been much easier, not to mention safer, had I learned on a much smaller production boat. The same applies to sail trim and just about all aspects of learning how to sail. Then there was, for me, the issue of insurance. Despite being a professional mariner for most of my career, I was viewed as a first time boat owner. I had many boats before, but nothing in the previous 10 years. Insuring a $100,000 boat is always going to be cheaper than one that's 3 or 4 times as much, especially if the insurance company sees you as a first time boat owner.
The newer island packet that I was dreaming of would have been anywhere between two and $300,000. And I make money, but I wouldn't have been able to pay that in cash. I would have gotten a loan. And if I had bought one, it would have been my first boat. And I probably would have done something stupid and bought it first before even thinking about insurance. And had I done that, I would have been in trouble because it would have been my first boat. I was looking at a 42 foot. And later on, I learned that insurance rates are much, much higher for, I think, anything over a 35 or 36 foot boat. So as a first time boat owner, I would have had a loan first on the boat. Then I would have an enormous amount of insurance costs if I could even find any. It would have just been a very, very expensive thing for me.
Having shared much of this with him, I told him that if I could go back in time, I would have liked to have not bought my forever world cruising dream boat, but rather a boat that was easy to attain, easy to learn to sail, and easy to resell. I told him to check out a Catalina 30 or something like that.
I ended up buying a Catalina. I had looked for a Catalina 30 first. I almost bought one, but that deal didn't go through. And then I ended up with a Catalina 36. But yeah, and it's an older boat, but still good bones. I now have a 1995 Catalina 36. It wasn't too expensive. I was able to pay for it in cash. And luckily, I learned that in general, anything under 36 feet, it's fairly easy to get insurance. So my insurance on my boat is cheaper than my car insurance. So yeah, I think it's a much faster boat. It's a cruising boat. It's a fast boat. It's got a lot of space because it doesn't have the heft or all the hardware that a island packet does. So that you get more space in a production cruising boat. I'm happy that I have a production cruising boat cockpit. I like your cockpit on Paquita, but mine's probably twice as big. Yeah, if I had bought an island packet, I would have skipped some, I think, important steps for me. So I have an older boat, I have a smaller boat, and I also thought about possibly buying an island packet and keeping it in Florida or something like that. But everything worked out for me. I have a smaller boat. I have it in New York where I live, so it's 45 minutes away from me. I can use it whenever I want. So my plan is to I did think about going to the islands this coming season, but I think I'm going to wait a couple of years because there's a lot. Even though I've chartered sailboats in the past, there's a lot to learn. Like you said, on these bigger boats, and I'm still having I still need a lot of practice docking. Yeah, it's just learning how to use all the instruments, and like you said, the sail trim. It's an education. It's an art. It takes a lot of practice. So yeah, and you and I still both work, so we can't be on the boat like for a month or two at a time and spend all our time learning. And anybody who's thinking about buying a boat's really got to appreciate and be aware of those costs: storage, hauling, maintenance, mechanics. I didn't even think of that. And if I had taken a loan and I had all those insurance costs, I wouldn't have any money left for the storage. So I would have been stuck. So with my boat now, a cheaper, smaller, older boat, it's no big deal paying all the costs because I have the money left over that I had put aside for the island packet, which wasn't enough. So now I have it. It's a better deal now for me.
Sounds like a better deal indeed, Mark. Well, it's awful good hearing from somebody who had taken my advice, and for once it might have been right. Well, like I say, it was right for him, and I certainly want to re-emphasize that not in a million years do I regret buying Paquita. And if everything goes right, I'm getting very short for when I cut the lines at work and head to the Azores and beyond. So it might have been the right choice for me. In fact, I'm sure that an island packet was the right choice for me. I just don't know if it's the right choice for everybody. And had I gone back in time, I might have, if I were younger and started earlier, it would have been nicer to start maybe with smaller things and become a better sailor before I did this. Oddly enough, the transition from being a professional mariner to being a recreational sailor hasn't been as easy as I thought it would be. I'm so used to going because of schedules and not because of weather, and we just have to kind of pound through it. And it's harder for me to find my way to relax on a cruising boat, but that's part of the deal and part of the fun of doing all this. So anyway, I got one more thing to share with you from Mark, but before I do that, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. If you get anything out of these videos, I'd love it if you gave me a like and subscribe. And, if the spirit moves you, we'd love to have you on our Patreon team. Patrons get ad-free content, early uploads, and on both channels too. I have another channel, Tim B at Sea, which is more of the tugboat channel. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'm gonna leave Mark with the final word here. But take care, be safe, and as always, I'll see you on the one.
I still want an island packet someday, but the time and cost is just not. I'm not ready for that yet.